director, philosopher, artist, teacher, minister, Tarvis L.
Peace. Just Tarvis L.
Tarvis L. Then we're going to stop right there.
Yeah, that's it.
The no more, you was the philosopher and teacher.
I got a noble title. I'm good.
That's all right. That's all right. So, man, so we're going to start off a little bit talking about this DACA situation here, man, just to inform and update individuals of color. Number one, I feel like, yes, it is a sad story that folks would have to leave the country if this thing goes the way it goes.
Right.
But, in America, it's not really up for grabs, but it should be up for grabs. Everybody, that's what they promote it as, a place where dreams come true and people can make something out of nothing. But, hopefully this situation can go on the up and up. But when we talked about it, you actually were explaining a little bit more about how the things that this particular presidency and this group they're kind of following suit and rolling this ball down the hill of what was started by President Obama.
Correct. The first thing that is going to be very harsh to a lot of listeners and just the general public who watch the news and who specifically rely on information from the mainstream is going to be very harsh.
Yeah.
Because the first thing I want to suggest is a law that was passed in 2012, which is called the Smith-Mundt Act, which had to do with specifically the government using propaganda against the American people. And they specifically told the American people back in 2012 that we are no longer going to be reporting news to you. We're going to use propaganda to promote agendas.
Propaganda is how war starts.
Correct. And you have to understand that the type of propaganda that's being used with the mainstream media, and by no means am I a fan of Donald Trump, but we have to understand that most of what we're hearing is not actually what's going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on behind the scene, and that's what we kind of want to find out. We want to get to the crust of the matter of what's really happening. What you see on the news, what they're reporting is not factual whatsoever. Specifically referring, Well, we say that. A lot of people say they know that, but they don't really know that.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to people talk, I mean, even in reference to the DACA, and in reference to, we spoke earlier about bills that were passed.
Yeah.
Usually when something is passed, it's not just one bill.
No, it's a stack up.
It's a stack up.
They have underneath underlying intentions and agendas.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if we're not making a diligent effort to actually get both sides of the story, then we're being misinformed.
Or even to get the rest of the stack, the information in the stack. The bill was usually titled by what's on the top.
Yes.
But usually something down in the middle was saying, we're going to start testing your water.
Correct.
Exactly. We're going to start making sure that, books are not saying things about history correctly.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes. And then we've also went through a revisionist era as well with information when basically Texas, and the word textbook, basically, Texas has had the rights.
They've been doing
to redo a lot of the educational materials that's used. That's why we call them textbooks, because a lot of them are redone in Texas. So they're actually in charge of the revisionist part of history to a certain extent. Now, going back to when you mentioned about Barack, about the administration following suit, Barack came in office in 2008.
Yeah.
He was on, and I'm not talking about the current Barack Obama. Yeah. I'm talking about the Barack Obama that came in office in 2008.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. But the one that came in 2008, he one of the first bills he signed was called the Indigenous Rights Act Bill of 2008, where it specifically deals with nationality. And the underlying theme of nationality is going back to Emancipation Proclamation, back when basically the so-called slaves were put on a longer rope, given a longer chain, never free. Right. So basically put on a longer rope. Yeah. I mean, the white slaves were actually free because they actually went back and got their name. When I say white slaves, very strongly, very prominently, because there was more white slaves than there were black slaves. But that's another topic.
Yeah, I know. I was ready for sound effects or something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir. So
that's when we talk about that change in that history
correct,
story.
Correct.
That in itself, it sets us in a schema.
Right.
You get put in a mindset when you think about slavery as only as people of the darker hue. But when you look and see that this is a system of social, economic, and commerce, like this was about using the workforce, labor force.
Correct. When you didn't have machinery, industrial complex, machines to actually keep things going. You needed physical labor.
Mm.
So going back to Emancipation Proclamation, people always talk about emancipation. Emancipate, which basically means to be put on a longer train. They never tell you about proclamation. Have you ever heard any one of our so-called black historians or scholars ever tell you about proclamation?
Proclamation.
The second part of emancipation.
Proclaim something.
You have to go back and get your name because we gave up our real names under the contracts that were signed during slavery. Sometimes voluntarily, sometimes involuntarily, and then sometimes it was taken from you. But there's a thing that's called acquiescence, which was always in law. So your name is Calvin, correct?
Yeah.
So if I come up to you and I say, "Hey, how you doing, Jim?" Are you gonna respond to me?
I shouldn't.
That's not your name.
Yeah.
Once I name you, I'm placing an authority on you. It's called acquiescence. So once you respond to me, then that means you're giving me jurisdiction to call you Jim, and to me, you are Jim. You're no longer Calvin. So under the system of slavery, and it happened several different ways. First of all, getting into Emancipation Proclamation, we actually gave up our names to help other individuals that we shouldn't have been helping. Okay? So through that, your grandmother always told you, "Hey, don't mess with those folks over there, leave them alone," right?
Yeah.
But you were curious, you wanted to go over there and see what's going on, and you wandered closer and closer and closer, and then, oh, they're not so bad. I'll go ahead and do this. I'll show them how to do this. The next thing you know, you're giving up your name.
Yeah.
They've given you a name now. You're no longer a Sekou Kal-Nahi. Now you're Calvin.
Man.
And due to the fact that going back to acquiescence and what that entails, and that is actually, it's not just a law that's written, but it's actually what we call esoteric, spiritual, universal law.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why, if you ever notice, a lot of people that are real, they're holding on to their history, their culture, even foreigners. They want you to call them by their names. They don't want to give up their name. And they'll tell you exactly how to pronounce it. Now, sometimes they go, "Well, just call me this," but they're telling you. But they're telling you.
But they're giving you permission.
Permission.
But
Correct.
they got another name there.
Exactly.
The acquiescence reminds me of the scene in Roots, where there was a battle for
Toby.
The Toby.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. They tell us every day, but throughout the brainwashing process of all the BS information that we've been taught, purposely by a lot of people that we trusted, that have taken oaths not to tell you who you are, because they receive stipends. It's sickening, man.
Yeah.
But going back to proclamation, so we were supposed to go back and get our name after Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah.
Okay. Then after you got your name, your correct name, whatever tribe you came from, indigenous tribe, here in the Americas, because most of us are from the Americas.
Yeah.
And I say that boldly, powerfully, and strongly.
I'm happy about that.
I don't know one person that saw a slave ship. Have you ever saw a slave ship?
I haven't seen one. No.
Okay, now if we do the math, the story is 60 to 100 million people died in the Middle Passage.
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot of them.
And it lasted for 400 years. Is that what they teach us?
From 1600 to about 1800.
Now the country is only 200 years old.
Okay.
So how can this be taking place longer than the country existed?
The
numbers don't add up.
The actual country.
Correct.
You're right. 1776.
United States Corporation. Yeah. It's less than 200 years old. So you see, we don't even think to do the math on that. We just accept it, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is this: if you do the math, 60 to 100 million. The trip took. We came from Africa on a ship, correct, on a boat.
On a boat, yeah.
The distance took what was it?
6
months?
6 months, yeah.
3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So what about the repairs that the ship needed coming across the Atlantic, which is one of the roughest oceans? I mean, the ships today, our battleships and our aircraft carriers have problems dealing with the Atlantic.
They're not made of wood either.
They're not made of wood.
They were made of wood. Mind you.
Exactly.
Wooden
So
boats.
when you actually deal with that fact of going back, and I'll leave the Middle Passage for another. It was actually called the Golden, I think it was called the Golden Triangle Trade.
Yeah, the Golden Trade, because they were able to get the gold for the bodies.
Yes, correct.
It started off with gold.
It started off.
Yeah.
That's the story that they used first, and then later on, as we got older, all of a sudden it turns into the Middle Passage.
Yeah, the Middle Passage.
Then it turned into slavery. So just going back to, I won't get too far off topic. Going back to proclamation, to go back and proclaim your name, the tribe or nation that you came from, which if you don't proclaim your name and you're carrying a name that was given to you, Black, Negro, African American, colored, African American came from Jesse Jackson in 1984, 88.
Rainbow Coalition.
Rainbow Coalition, started by white folks.
Yeah.
They coined that term. So going back to those titles don't have they don't carry nationality. There's no black language. There's no Negro language. There's no colored language. There's no African American language or flag or continent.
Or customs or traditions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, you don't have a nationality.
By
So
the
going
crowd.
back to proclamation, what Abraham Lincoln passed was those who went back and proclaimed their name would be actually turned. They would be handed back over the real estate that they owned, and that's what got him. That's one of the reasons he was assassinated.
Wow.
By a Jesuit,
Brother,
who was also a mulatto.
You talking about Booth?
Yes, sir.
Ah. This is Soul Star Live. We're going to pay the bills real quick here, man. Oh, Taxman got you down. Are we supposed to do that one? We probably supposed to get that
First Friday.
First Friday. Join Radio Phoenix, Roosevelt Road, stir it up. Bucket on First Friday in October, 10 p.m. The month of First Friday artwork now expanding to more than the street downtown Phoenix. First Friday features vendors, food trucks, and live local bands. Radio Phoenix will also be broadcasting live on Morning Street. For more information, it's available at our link, theartlinkphoenix.com. Then press on First Friday. So the top menu. Man, we got about 3 minutes left in this segment, and man, you dropping it like it's too hot for me, man. I just working on myself. Did I get it right now? Is everything righteous? Let me keep coming. All right, yes. Oh yeah, there he is. For those of our listeners also viewing on Facebook, make sure you tune in on Facebook. If you're listening, you want to try to make sure that you are checking us all out. Checking out. I tried to look good today, so you should definitely go to Facebook and watch us. We got Brother Thomas in the studio, and something you said made me feel like I need to rewind a bit, man, because I understand we don't have all of those cultural qualifiers for making ourselves who we are, declaring all these traditions, language, and customs, rites of passages, and things. So, in the next part, before we get to the poetry is life play, the next section, I want to talk about a little bit of how do we acquire those, or what do you say to the person who says that they're black and they want to figure out what should they do with their blackness and their non-heritageness and their status here. So this is Soul Star Live. We will be right back right after this break.
And you're clear. You got 2 minutes.
You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about? And just what happens since we don't have that? What's the steps black people need to, what do we need to do?
Barack Obama told you to proclaim your nationality.
Okay.
Declare your nationality. He and Michelle Obama did it back in 1995. They declared their nationality. So when you proclaim your nationality, now you're no longer a slave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You no longer can be treated like a slave. But you have to put people on notice to let them know that you're not a slave. Now that's done. The initial way it's done is publication. You just like you put publication on a business to let everybody know,
just like the white people did.
Correct.
Jefferson, and then when they put it down on a piece of paper and sent it to England and said, we're going to declare independence, we want this to be us, we want to be free from the king's oppression.
It's just like saying I am.
You document it on a piece of paper, and we got to be free.
And you got to put it on publication, and then the next step is there's paperwork to file with the county, not the state. The state is incorporated. The county is separate from the state. So what happens is people always the confusion is, I got to ask this white man for something. No. We can't have it both ways. Either we're the original people or we're not.
Yeah.
You can't say this is his law if he hasn't been here very long. We set this up a long time ago. We're not following our own rules, and they use our rules against us because we're caught in this white man trick. I got to ask the white man for something. No, he's asking you.
I'm not to have a headache today. I was like, I'm going to I'll be on the show, and I just want to make sure I don't leave with no headache. So,
you follow me so far?
I'm very familiar with contractual law and understanding that contractual law is something that really rules and governs this land.
Yes, exactly. It's because
the contractual laws are the ones. Yeah,
this has nothing to do with this.
The language, the actual language.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you contract it, when you apply it to paper, or you apply it to documentation, and it's sealed, just like our independent thing is sealed.
Mhm.
Declaration of Independence is sealed behind,
Correct.
secure. You can't touch it. If you touch the document, it destroys our actual.
And nationality's in the Bible. I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you how it's in the Bible.
This is who we're playing right now.
Morgan Heritage.
Yeah, Morgan Heritage is tight.
All right.
Yeah, Morgan's tight. Been around for a while.
He's local.
They from Jersey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
All right, you ready?
I didn't get on top.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Soul Star Live. Soul Star Live. That's Morgan Heritage from Jersey, I hear. Dancing in the moonlight.
Yes.
Right on. Brother from Jersey, huh? That's that island music.
Jersey or Boston. I think
Jersey, Boston, East Coast. We got the island sound. Though. I like that. I like the Brother Heritage. Yeah. Speaking of heritage, we just was, that's kind of my segue. I'm trying to get my segue here. We were trying to figure out, for all the black people that was listening, that just found out that being black, you ain't got no language and no culture. You know what? What them black folks supposed to do right now? What we supposed to do and try to address this? I know you mentioned that there was some things that President Obama had set in motion and wanted people to go back and find their name.
Correct. And that was, I referred to it again, you can read through it. It's called the 2008 Indigenous Rights Act Bill. And he did change the name, because before that, it was called the Native Rights Act. They didn't change it to Indigenous.
That spoke to the Native American population.
Yes, because when this
exclusively initially.
Yes, so
Yeah.
that's another topic.
Yeah.
So basically, in law, you know, when you tell somebody what something is, you're also telling them what it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he changed the name to
Yeah.
Indigenous Rights Act Bill, when you talk about the word indigenous, the first part of the word indigenous is indigo, which is the darkest color on the spectrum, and then the second part is genes. So
Yeah.
you're talking specifically those with dominant genes.
And that might happen to be me.
That could
got
very
melanin.
well be.
Got melanin in.
Correct. So in native, actually, the term native actually really meant one who was in bondage.
Mm.
So even indigenous has various meanings depending on how you use it, the context it's used in. But the fact that he changed it to Indigenous Rights Act Bill when it was called the Native Bill under Clinton, and he passed that. And basically, you know, when he was campaigning for office in 2007, mentioned earlier, he was on the Tom Jordan Morning Show. When he was Texas, And Tom Jordan made a comment about the word African American, and how Barack at the time was not calling himself an African American, or he had never heard it mentioned. And Barack responded that that's not his name. Legally, that's not who we are.
Wow.
And at the time, of course, the people that were into the information that I'm into and learning, we're forever learning, we don't have it all. We're forever learning and growing. That's the intent. But we knew exactly what he was talking about. So, of course, it piqued interest. And we're like, okay, at least he knows about nationality. Now, what is he going to do about it?
Yeah.
And what he did about it was he told everybody, go get their names, go get your name back, and then he stepped his ass right back in line after that.
That's it.
Got right back in line with his bosses.
And he said, yes, I'll be president for the next 2 years and do exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly.
Let me sign off this bill.
So, and after that, I want to mention, if you go back and check, after he signed that bill, that is when he had a surprise visit at the White House with some unexpected guest that crashed his party. Of course, that was Hit Squad, telling him to get his ass back in line.
Wow.
So if you just go back and check, you see. So that's what he did. And they also have a nationality. Barack Obama has a nationality. He declared it back in 1995. Michelle declared it back in 1994. And that's information for another time. But they also have a nationality. So if they do it,
why
and
not?
we don't, then it's kind of telling you that things are going to come down the line. So now we're dealing with travel bans in Missouri. We're dealing with DECA. Once again, yes, sir.
Yeah, the
Travel
NAACP put out a little heads up for everybody traveling through Missouri. You can actually go and look at that up online. They want to make sure that people of color don't stop in Missouri because there's some new laws that were passed that cannot guarantee you a safe passage through. That was just the gist of what was said, you know, online. This was CNN who was talking about this with the NAACP representatives. And you know, I don't want to confuse anybody with it, but there was a brother who was he ran out of gas, and then that was the last we saw. He was found dead in the jail. So because they were able to get these laws passed and make this thing happen kind of overnight, and the NAACP put out a little heads up. Hey, watch out in Missouri.
Now, you know, going back to you know, what does a black person want to do when they find out? You know, what do they do? Well, the first thing, there's a major confusion about proclamation. Okay, and being as that you know about contractual law, proclamation is first always done via your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say what you are.
Yeah.
See, the thing is the world knows who we are. We don't.
That's
So
the
once
thing.
you say who you are,
Yeah.
they got to honor that.
Yeah.
If they don't honor it, then there's other steps you take. But the first thing is to proclaim it. That means with your mouth and with your mind and then with your actions. See, there are things that we do today as black folks that historically our ancestors did not do.
Yeah.
So if we're still behaving like we're not supposed to behave, and you're saying one thing and doing another, that's not honoring your words.
Yeah.
So once you make that proclamation, you actually have to honor what you're saying, what you're doing, like actions and words you do.
Man.
Then it becomes law. Then now you do the steps to take it, to put it in writing, to make a public proclamation. There's certain temples that you can go through that'll help you with proclamation. You can actually do it on your own. A lot of people do it on their own. You know, it's just you file with the county, not with the state.
Yeah.
You file with the county, not with the state. Yeah. Okay. Two different jurisdictions.
And if we were looking for, like, you know, what do I just select my own name? Do I just pick, you know, do I just change my name to?
I would
X?
always suggest this because when we come to genealogy.com and ancestry.com and things like that, 123andMe, a lot of these companies are owned by the Mormons.
Okay.
So do you think they're really going to tell you who you are?
Well,
when they know who you
They
are?
supposedly have a large database.
Yes,
The
they do.
Mormons have one of
Now-
the largest databases.
They do, and I want to mention that name. Say that name in 2 syllables.
The more, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got that from you. Okay? They took your name.
The
See
more
how everybody else is taking your name?
Yeah.
They got your goal. You know. But the thing is once you talk to people that are high in the Mormon church or that actually study, when you tell them who you are, they will respect you.
Okay.
The attitude will change.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed that personally. So I'm not just speaking out of words. I'm not saying all of them, because you got ignorant people everywhere you go, you're going to find something.
For sure. But if I get back to, like, joking, I just call myself Blue Eyes and
Well, yeah, going back to
Gene
that.
Green.
Yeah,
like,
going back to that. What you want to do is you want to start with your mother's side first.
Right.
You want to trace her heritage first and find out who her grandmother was, who her great mother. Go back as far as you can.
Yeah.
Find out the tribe,
Heritage
the
goes
dialect.
through the mama.
Yeah, that's why it's called heritage. Her ages, the ages of her. You go through her first, and then you go through the father.
Right.
And I guarantee you that if you're from the southeast or if you're from the northeast of the country, more than likely you are Iroquois Confederacy, which is 7 different tribes. Later on called the Cherokee, the Kittiwah, the Anyawea.
And they all had an agreement.
Correct.
With the nation.
Yeah, even going back to the Powhatan Nation,
Yeah.
going back to Pocahontas. They call that an interracial love story.
That's what they call it.
Now, what does interracial always consist of?
Usually black and white.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why they use that word. Pocahontas' name was Amun Nutakata.
Uh-oh.
That was her original name, is Amun Nutakata. And she had several other names as well. So find out your heritage here in the Americas.
No doubt.
Okay? Because most of you, if you get a room full of 10 black people and you ask them how many Africans do you have in your family directly, what tribe, what nation they come from in Africa, the continent of Africa, you're hard pressed.
Probably.
But as many, if you ask someone, well, do you have any so-called Indian in your family, American Indian?
A lot of people say they do.
Their grandmothers. That's because that's who you are originally. You were the big Buffalo people, and these other people came in and took your name, and you took somebody else's name, and other names were placed on you. You can also refer to Sarah Rector. It's called the richest black girl in America. They took exactly. They took her name from her. She was full-blooded Creek. They changed it to Black Girl, Negro, and they took her land. Standard Oil now operates on her land today.
Man, we're going to have to get back to Brother Tarvis right after this break. We got to get to Poetry is Life because I'm in the play, people. Come check it out. I'm telling you, we'll get to the Poetry is Life. Brother Tarvis here on Soul Star Live. We'll be right back. Man, we don't stop preaching in this morning. Pocahontas. They gonna have to, Disney got to redo the movie now.
So
I can show you actual pictures of Powhatan Nation. My cousin is Powhatan.
Okay.
Now, if you ever take one thing that I want to mention too is I don't forget is the original meaning of America.
Yeah.
I got to mention that.
One
It's
of
in
the
Webster's
things
1828
that,
definition.
when we
Dictionary.
come back, that might be helpful for you to mention is why not go through the state and why go through the county? Because there might be some people who don't
Some people don't
understand.
understand that. Yeah. I'll write that down. The state versus county had his ass. Man, so this is very interesting. And the play actually covers quite a bit of information in regards to going back into like Kemetic.
Yeah, we do with Egypt.
There's levels of.
It's 2 Egypts, man. It's a Kupta, that's the one that's in the east, and there's what's called Tamuray, which is actually America spelled backwards. That's the Americas. So when you see when you see the two snakes on the pharaoh's head, it represents Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, right?
That's what
The
I
two
know.
continents. That's covered in the rocks cry out. Now it shows you it was two continents. It's not two lands. Because remember, up is down. Remember that? How Upper Egypt is south?
Yeah.
And in Lower Egypt was north?
North of the equator. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
This was actually called Northeast Africa. Northwest Africa is what America was called at one time.
Stand by.
Wow.
In the late 1600s. It was called Northwest Africa.
All right, stand by.
Amexem.
This is who's going to be playing when you come back.
Okay.
Daime Aresena.
Ari Son.
I don't think I'm pronouncing her name right. She's Cuban.
Cuban. I'm gonna give it I'm gonna roll a R. I'm gonna get up in there. I'm gonna roll a R.
I gotta mention some names also. Remind me to mention some of the chiefs' actual real names.
Stand by, your mic's hot.
Welcome back, Soul Star Live. This is Daime Arosina, Mambo Nama. I like when I have to do all the extra stuff. You know, I'm trying to work on my my dialect and whatnot. We're here in the studios with Brother Tarvis, blessing us with the good information on the up and up, helping Soul Star Live listeners and Desert Soul Media get their names right. We're trying to get it right just up in the house. I did want to ask one question about the difference between the state and the county, as opposed to when people are trying to declare their status or get their nationality. Why not the state and county? What is the significance?
The state deals more with the U.S. corporate side of things than actual abiding by the original constitutions that every territory had before they began to fall under the United States Constitution of 1871.
Okay.
So there's what you call an organic constitution that was written before the Constitution of 1871, which is basically which was put in place by the Vatican. So initially, when you're dealing with the state, you're still dealing with the Vatican, who took over the United States Corporation in 1871 after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He was our last actual president. There has been no president since Abraham Lincoln. And you can find that information. It's called motu proprio, which is also called the Pope letter, which I do suggest that every black person read because he's on the Pope letter. It's called motu proprio. That was passed in July. It was issued July 4th, 2012. You can pull up under the Pope letter, July 4th, 2012. David E. Robinson, Civil Alert. Every one of us need to read that because the Vatican is telling you who runs the show, and they're also saying who you are, that you were tricked out of your name. And this all started when you were tricked out of your name back in the 1800s. Everything has to do with us.
It's always been propaganda.
So yeah, the state basically is still dealing with a lot of more of the U.S. corporation side than is dealing with the actual treaties and actual things that were set in place before the Constitution. The county deals with more of that. And of course, it's a lot simpler than the county.
It's more intimate.
And I would always suggest that you go through Cook County.
Cook County.
Right. Cook County to claim your nationality. If you find out that your mom's
That's in Illinois.
correct.
That's my county.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Before the physical territory of the Americas was run from Philadelphia, it was ran from the territory of Cook County.
Wow.
Cook County. That's where the Vatican actually established itself as out of Cook County.
The one city founded by a black man.
Yeah. What was his name?
Actually,
Sabo.
LA was also founded by
Oh, really?
Mexicans.
What? The Conjure EP dropping knowledge on that. LA too. We got two cities.
Yes,
We got
sir.
to get them back.
Yeah, that territory actually is very powerful right around the Cook County area. There's a lot of them are. There's vortexes. We set up vortexes all over the Americas.
Wow.
So we're trying to rush to go back to another continent, and those are really our cousins. We did business with him. We did trade. We also fought wars against each other. That's something that I'll tell you, Africans know this.
Yeah.
I've got a very close friend that's from Liberia. We talk all the time. And he was just so excited that, you know, when I explained to him that when he asked me, he called me a black person. He says, you know, black people. And I corrected him. I said, I have a nationality. And he looked at me. Now, he's got a very heavy Liberian accent. Yeah. Very deep voice, but very powerful. He's been Dinka. We say Mandingo. They say Mandinga. So I corrected him. I said, well, no. I said, actually, I'm Kitawa. And he looked at me. And, you know, Africans can look at you. You don't know what they're thinking, right? He was looking at me to see what I knew.
Yeah.
And once I explained it to him, you know, he kind of walked away. But the next day, he came up to me and said, you know, I'm so happy that somebody over here knows who they are. Wow. This is their territory. Wow. And I said, so wait a minute. When I told you I was Kitawa, you knew what I was talking about? He said, yeah, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, he said, we learned this in school when we small.
Yeah, they over there.
So, and you know what he said? Yes. So, and, you know, he also talked about a gentleman that's hardly ever taught in schools, Noble Drew Ali. I asked him, have you ever heard the name Noble Drew Ali? And he said, of course.
Teaching that over in Liberia.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what's
They know Noble Drew Ali in China and Japan, but we don't know him over here.
No, we don't get taught him at
all. All we know about him is he was with Marcus Garvey.
And Marcus Garvey.
And he started an organization.
And other people quote him for his extremism or whatever.
Yeah,
as an extremist.
Yeah, all the other revisionist history that came out in 1960.
I guess if they was teaching Noble Drew Ali at that school, I'll be teaching at that school. Come on. So, Brother Tarvis, we do have to talk a little bit about this wonderful piece of literary art that is going on the stage here at the Mesa Performing Arts Center, October 7th. It's called Poetry is Life, Know Thyself. What is the history of this play here?
The history of Poetry is Life, we did 2 shows back in 2012.
2012, five years ago. So.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what we were doing is there was a lot of very powerful poets around the valley, the Phoenix area in the valley, and we were attempting to bring them together through unity.
Okay.
And what's a platform I had already did, I wrote up the outline for the script actually back in 2002 with a gentleman by the name of Mike Ware. We call him Brother Baba. Brother Baba.
Brother Baba came on with the drums.
Yeah. So Brother Baba is information on the ancient Metanetra and also the Egyptian mystery systems.
Yeah. So,
you know, we kind of collaborated there and came up with a story. We wanted to actually do a film. At the time, we came up with it in 2002. We really couldn't find the type of people that we wanted to portray the roles because we wanted to be real. We just didn't want to put anybody on stage and say these lines.
Yeah.
And then they, you know, okay, that's a great actor, but you can see that they're just actors. So, we wanted to make it real. So as time grew on, you know, we ran across a lot of poets that were very powerful, and you know, we got to know some of them personally. And we, you know, at the time, we thought, okay, this person would be great for this role. So eventually, what we did is we combined various poets to perform certain aspects of the play because we knew they could make it real. But in that, we also learned that there's a lot of egos in our community, extreme. You know, and sometimes it's crazy. It's crazy because you just forget. Sometimes people just forget about the general goal. What are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
You know, and it just goes on me. So it's just, you know, that's in anything you deal with. Anything you put together, you gotta have that. That's just something that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
It's nothing true. So we put on 2 shows. The subject matter of the play, we deal with basically getting back to learning about ourselves and who we are as human beings on this planet.
Human, you emphasize that.
We emphasize on human.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting back to the power of melanin, what melanin does, what it is, what it's not. We don't bash anybody over the head. This is not an anti-white production. We have a couple so-called white females in the play, you know, who love it, as we did before back in 2012. Matter of fact, they cooperated the most out of everybody when we were presenting information. We had a gentleman and his wife and also his daughter participated. They didn't want us to change anything. They didn't find anything offensive. They said it needed to be. It was time for it to be said. And that was the thing as well too. Was back in 202. The timing wasn't right. So we knew that the timing had to be correct. So there's been a lot of people that are awakening now over the past few years. You can talk to people about stuff you couldn't talk to before. So there's a lot of awakening going on right now. Celestial bodies are changing. There's entities here walking around now that weren't before.
Yeah.
So there's things we can do now. As before, you had to watch your hands.
That's what's up.
So we got a standing ovation back in 2012. We put on 2 shows, Peoria Theater for the Arts.
Okay.
I think it's called Theater Works Then.
All right.
standing ovation. We really didn't get the turnout we expected or wanted because of weather factors and other factors as well.
Right.
So over the years, I'd always ran into some of the poets, and specifically a brother by the name, I call him a brother, a European brother, Kevin Aaron, who's a bass player.
Right.
He studies too. He studies more science, by the way.
Oh, wow.
He studies, listens to lots of Yafa Bay and Dr. Phil Valentine.
Wow.
Bobby Hemmett. Yeah, he goes in, man. White boy goes in.
Okay.
He goes in, man. So
Okay.
it's not for certain people. It really is for everybody.
And he plays the bass.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So anyway, I ran into Kevin Aaron in a restaurant last year. He was playing at Rags Chicken and Waffles out there in Youngtown.
Okay.
Not too far from out there. And he said, "Hey Pharaoh," he's like, "You gonna get that play going again, man?" I said, "Man, it's time for that play." And the way he said it, it was like coming from his heart.
Yeah.
So I was like, "No, man, headaches,
Might not
dealing
be.
with people, you know."
Yeah.
And Kevin was like, "Nah, man," he said, "It's time
Yeah.
for you to put it back on." So I reached out to a few people, talked to Brother Baba, and then we took steps to put it together again. So here we are again, man.
Excited.
Yeah,
I'm
October 7th, 2017 at the Performing Arts Center in Mesa.
I'm excited because I'm in it, number one. And and my son and I are doing a scene together. And I'm excited for that. The first time I get to be on stage with my boy. And we got my main man, Billy Ramsey.
Correct.
It's going in hard on him with the Pharaoh scene.
Yeah,
I'm
correct.
excited about that.
Oh yeah, by the way, you can get your tickets at www.poetryisInfo.
Poetryislife.info. And we're gonna put the link up on our Facebook page so that our listeners can go and click on that. There are two types of tickets. You can get the VIP ticket that has food and a party afterwards.
Correct. You get a free meal with the VIP ticket.
Okay.
You have to show up between 6 and 7:30.
That'll
The
work.
show starts at 8, and after the
Yeah.
play, you get free
You get
drinks
to hang
and
out with
party.
us and whatnot. So yeah, check it out. And we'll get that link up for you there, and we'll work it out. One way you can support Radio Phoenix, though, is by becoming one of our sustaining members for $35 per year. Members receive discounts and savings and benefits provided by our membership program partners. And don't forget, the membership fee is tax deductible. For more information or to sign up, call 480-829-5746 or go online at radiophoenix.org. Click on the support tab at the top and then become a member on the drop-down menu. We thank you so much for your generous support of community radio, and that's the only reason why we get to talk about what we talked about.
Yes, sir.
Because this is community radio. So this is Soul Star Live. We are going to get ourselves ready for our final segment here. The last little bit of segment, maybe we'll talk a little bit about some more of the insights on history. But yeah, and I'm going to give a little forward promo about next week's show. You should be excited about that. So we got one more segment left. Listeners, we got one more left. Right after this break, Soul Star Live.
And this is who we're playing. Cage Renata.
Cage Renata. Life Spots.
Light Spots. He's from Toronto.
From Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right.
So I have questions when we get off.
Uh-oh. You gotta save them.
Hey, whenever y'all need me, brother, I come back.
We gonna have you come back. We gonna have you come
I'm
back.
already thinking about his weekly segment.
It's like, so, Radio Phoenix might need a brother over here. That's dope, man. That's some good info, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, when I first met him and I was invited to come check out the play, we kind of had a similar conversation,
Yeah.
We didn't get too much rehearsal done. I was like, yo, man, because, especially when people know history, be like, yo, you're excited to compare notes and say, what about this? What you know about that? It's like, man, we can go.
It's direct descendant and heir to the Vanderbilts, the second wealthiest family in America. Secret society person called the Man. You all heard about Gloria Steinem, right? They released information on her, the CIA did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the whole feminist movement, especially was targeted towards black women. It was all propaganda by the CIA to disrupt the black family. She was one of their.
I had a preview for my son. He initially was like, he wanted to see